Students, as you all know that we were discussing India after independence. We have gone through many of the points till now, like we can say the independence, a new and divided nation, problems after independence, divided nations, increase in population and rising problems related to the population, as well as how the constitution was written, what were the features of the constitution. All these things we have discussed. We have also discussed about planning and development, and now we have started to discuss about how were the states formed, or how were states to be formed. That means here in this topic we have started to discuss about that what kind of discussions were going on related to the states and the formation of the states. So there were so many people in our country, those who were in favor of the formation of the states, and there are some people, those who are thinking that as India is already divided in two countries, as Pakistan and India, now it is really unbearable for India to divide the country further on the basis of the languages and all that. So, but as the Indian National Congress has already promised to the many of the leaders of the freedom fighters of the various regions that they are going to divide the country on the basis of the languages, or they are going to make the provinces on the basis of the languages. All these things we have seen. We have also seen that how Prime Minister Nehru and Vallabhbhai Patel were against the creation of the linguistic states. All these things we have already discussed in the uh, how were states to be formed. So now we are going to see further in this topic on the page number 133. This topic is there, which says that the Congress leaders would now go back on their promise, created great disappointment. The Kannada speakers, Malayalam speakers, the Marathi speakers had all looked forward to having their own state. The strongest protests, however, came from the Telugu speaking districts of what was Madras Presidency. When Nehru went to campaign during the general elections of 1952, he was met with black flags and slogans demanding we want Andhra. In October of that year, a veteran Gandhian named Potti Siramulu went on a hunger strike demanding the formation of Andhra state to protect the interest of Telugu speakers. As the fast went on, it attracted much supports. Hartals and buns were observed in many towns. So here it is said that as the Congress were not ready to divide the country, so this created great disappointment among the people to whom the Congress has already promised that they are going to divide the states, or they are going to form the states on the basis of languages. So the people from the Kannada speakers, Malayalam speaker, as well as the Marathi speaker had all looked forward to having their own state. And when Nehru went to campaign uh, there during a general elections of 1952, he met with some of the very important things over there, like black flags and slogans, which was demanding we want Andhra. सो मतलब यहाँ पर ये बताने की कोशिश की गई है कि 1952 में जब इलेक्शंस के कैंपेन के दौरान जब जवाहरलाल नेहरू साउथ की तरफ में गए तो उनको कई सारी चीज़ों का सामना करना पड़ा, लाइक देर वर ब्लैक फ्लैग्स, slogans, the people were demanding we want Andhra. So in this way, in October of that year, in 1952, a veteran Gandhian named Potti Siramulu, मतलब कि जो खुद ही अपने आप में गांधी को मानने वाले थे, जिनका नाम था पोट्टी सिरामुल्लू. सो ही वेंट ऑन द हंगर स्ट्राइक, एंड व्हाट वाज हिज डिमांड? दैट Andhra state to protect the interest of Telugu speakers. So it was his demand that he wanted the Andhra state, and he wanted to protect the interest of the Telugu speakers. That means he wanted the state or a separate state for all the Andhra people, as or all the Telugu speakers. As the fast went on, they attracted much support. हड़ताल्स एंड बंस वर ऑब्जर्व्ड इन मेनी टाउन्स. सो यहाँ पर बोला गया है कि इसके बाद में जिस तरीके से आंध्रा में डिमांड हुई कि वी वांट अ सेपरेट आंध्रा, इन मेनी अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ द कंट्री हड़ताल्स एंड बंस वर ऑब्जर्व्ड. सो ऑन 15 December 1952, 58 days into his fast, Potti Siramulu died. As a newspaper put it, the news of the passing away of Siramulu engulfed entire Andhra in chaos. The protests were so widespread and intense that the central government was forced to give in to the demand. Thus, on 1st October 1953, the new state of Andhra came into being, which subsequently became Andhra Pradesh. So, what happened that on 15 December 19 on 15 December 1952, 58 after the 58 days into his fast, Potti Siramallu died. मतलब कि जो गांधीयन वेटरन थे, जो गांधी के विचारधारा को फॉलो करने वाले जो पोती सिरामुल्लू थे, he died after the 58 days of his fast, or we can say the hunger strike. And after that, what happened? The news of the passing away of Siramallu engulfed entire Andhra in chaos. मतलब जब सिरामुल्लू जी की डेथ हुई, उसके बाद में आंध्र प्रदेश में हर तरफ में बहुत ज़्यादा उथल पुथल होने लगी. द प्रोटेस्ट वर सो वाइड स्प्रेड, जो प्रोटेस्ट था वो काफ़ी हद तक बढ़ गया था, एंड इंटेंस दैट द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट वॉज फोर्स टू बी इन टू द डिमांड. तो इसलिए और इसी के चलते हुए सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को अपने आप को फोर्स में या फिर अपने आप को मतलब एक्टिव करना पड़ा. दस ऑन 1st October 1953 द न्यू स्टेट ऑफ आंध्रा केम इनटू बीइंग, विच सब्सिक्वेंटली बिकेम आंध्र प्रदेश. तो यहाँ बोला गया है कि इसी के तहत या इसी के चलते हुए 1st October 1953 में एक नया स्टेट बनाया गया जिसको आंध्र के नाम से या आंध्र प्रदेश के नाम से जाना गया. दैट मीन्स आफ्टर द डेथ ऑफ द पोट्टी सिरामल्लू, वी कैन से the new state was emerged, which was later on called as the Andhra Pradesh. So after the creation of Andhra, other linguistic communities also demanded their own separate state. A state's reorganization commission was set up, which submitted its report in, we can say, 1956, recommending the uh, redrawing of district and provincial boundaries to form compact provinces of assemblies. Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, and Telugu speakers respectively. The large Hindi-speaking region of North India was also to be broken up to into several states. A little later, in 1960, the bilingual state of Bombay was divided into separate states for Marathi and Gujarati speakers. In 1966, the state of Punjab was also divided into Punjab and Haryana. The former for the Punjabi speaker who were also mostly Sikhs, and the latter for the rest who spoke not Punjabi but versions of Haryanvi and Hindi. So in this way the various states were divided after this. मतलब इसका यह है कि आंध्र प्रदेश के अलग होने के बाद में या आंध्र प्रदेश के एक सेपरेट स्टेट बनने के बाद में पूरे कंट्री के अलग अलग जगह से सेपरेट स्टेट की डिमांड आने लगी. एंड here it is said that a state reorganization commission was set up, और इसी के तहत states reorganization commission को सेटअप किया गया, which submitted its report in 1956. 1956 में इन्होंने अपनी रिपोर्ट सबमिट की स्टेट्स रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन कमीशन ने, एंड it was recommending the redrawing of district and provincial boundaries to form compact provinces of Assamese, Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, and Telugu speakers respectively. So in this way, here it is said that provinces should be formed on the basis of the languages. It was written in the report of the States Reorganization Commission. That means Assami, Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Telugu speaker areas or the regions should be divided into the separate provinces. This was written in the report. The large Hindi speaking regions of North India was also to be broken up to up into several states. कई सारे जो हिंदी भाषा बोलने वाले जो रीजन्स थे हमारे इंडिया के, वो भी अपने आप में एक सेपरेट स्टेट चाहते थे. अ लिटिल लेटर, दैट मीन्स इन 1960, द बाइलिंगुअल स्टेट ऑफ बॉम्बे वॉज डिवाइडेड इनटू सेपरेट स्टेट. दैट वाज मराठी एंड गुजराती. मतलब कि बॉम्बे स्टेट जो था या बॉम्बे जो प्रोविंस था, that was later on divided into two different states, that was Marathi and Gujarati speaking two states we can say. And in 1966 the state of Punjab was also divided into Punjab and Haryana. 96 में 1966 में और क्या हुआ कि पंजाब जो है वो डिवाइड हुआ इनटू पंजाब एंड हरियाणा. मतलब जो पंजाब एक बड़ा सा इलाका था उसको डिवाइड करके दो स्टेट बनाए गए, पंजाब एंड हरियाणा. In Punjab, mostly Punjabi speakers or the mostly Sikh people were there, and in Haryana, mostly some other versions of the Punjabi, like Haryanvi or Hindi, were speaking over there. So in this way, Haryana was separated from the Punjab. In this way, these all the things you can observe from the maps given on our books, page number 134, 135. How the states have formed and what is the situation of the Indian states in 1975, that you can clearly observe. That means in till 1940s, in 1947 you can see the princely states were there, British India or the ruling areas were there. Then after that in 1956 you can see how the different states have started to form. And finally you can see in 1975 there were around we can say a number of states in our country. The number of states keep on changing in our country. Even in recently in 2019 and 20 also, some of the changes have occurred in the states. As you all know that earlier Jammu Kashmir was considered as one state, but now it is we can say converted into the or divided into the we can say the union territories. So all these things we have seen. Now we are moving towards the next topic, that is planning for development. Planning for development, this is very important topic over here that we are going to see now in the on the page number 136. Okay, so planning for development. Lifting India and Indians out of poverty and building a modern technical and industrial base were among the major objectives of the new nation. In 1950, the government set up a planning commission to help design and execute suitable policies for economic development. There was a broad agreement on what was called a mixed economy model. Here, both the states and the private sector, state and private sector means the government of the country and the private sector, would play important and complementary roles in increasing production of and generating jobs. What specifically these roles were to be, which industries should be initiated by the state and which by the market, how to achieve a balance between the different regions and state was to be defined by planning and commission. And in 1956, the second 5 years plan was formulated. This focused strongly on the development of heavy industries such as steel and on the building of large dams. These sectors would be under the control of the state. This focus on heavy industry and the effort at the state regulation of the economy was to guide economic policy for the next few decades. This approach had many strong supporters but also some vocal critics. Some felt that it had put inadequate emphasis on agriculture. Others argued that it had neglected primary education. Still, others believed that it had not taken account of the environmental implications of economic policies, as Mahatma Gandhi's follower Miraben wrote in 1949, by science and machinery, he may get huge return for a time, but ultimately will come this we can say desolation. We have not we have got to study nature's balance and develop our lives within her laws if we are to survive as a physically healthy and morally decent species. So in this way, planning and developments various steps were taken. Like in 1950, the government set up the planning commission to help design and execute suitable policies. मतलब नई नई पॉलिसीज को एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए प्लानिंग कमीशन को बनाया गया, ऑर्गेनाइज किया गया. एंड देर वॉज अ ब्रॉड एग्रीमेंट ऑन व्हाट वाज कॉल्ड एज ए मिक्स्ड इकोनॉमी. एक बड़ा सा एग्रीमेंट किया गया देश में, विच वाज we can say in which was called as the mixed economy. And what was that mixed economy? Basically, that means the state and the private sector would play the important and complementary role in increasing production and generating jobs. मतलब कि हमारी कंट्री में ना ही सिर्फ स्टेट ही जो है वो डेवलपमेंट का काम करेगा, बल्कि प्राइवेट सेक्टर भी जो है डेवलपमेंट का काम करेगा. और इनका बेसिक काम क्या होगा? टू प्रोवाइड द जॉब्स टू द पीपल एंड इंक्रीज द प्रोडक्शन. Okay, so what specifically these roles were to be, which industries should be initiated by the state and which by the market, how to achieve balance between the different regions and the states was to be defined by planning commission. तो अब इसका जो मेन ये जो रोल्स क्या थे, जो जो हम कहते हैं कि स्टेट और प्राइवेट सेक्टर की जो इंडस्ट्रीज थी या जो कुछ भी डेवलपमेंटल प्रोग्राम्स थे, उसमें स्पेसिफिकली व्हाट वर द रोल्स बेसिकली. तो इनका रोल क्या था? दैट विच इंडस्ट्री शुड बी इनिशिएटेड, मतलब कि कौन सी इंडस्ट्रीज बनाई जानी चाहिए बाय द गवर्नमेंट, एंड वी शुड बी मेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट. All these decisions were all these decisions were the part of the role of the private and public sector. So, in this way, how to achieve a balance between the different regions and state was to be defined by planning commission. तो प्लानिंग कमीशन का इस इन सभी में क्या काम होगा कि अलग अलग रीजन जो है हमारी कंट्री के, उन रीजन्स में एक डेवलपमेंट का बैलेंस कैसे लाया जाए. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि कोई रीजन जो है वो बहुत ज़्यादा डेवलप हो चुका है और कोई रीजन जो है वो कम डेवलप हुआ है. इस तरीके से हम कह सकते हैं कि the planning should be made properly with the help of the planning commission. Okay, in 1956 the second 5 years plan was formulated. This focused strongly on the development of heavy industries. तो जो सेकंड 5 years प्लान बनाया गया जो कि 1956 में लागू किया गया, इसमें ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कौन सी चीज़ों को की तरफ में फोकस किया गया? स्ट्रांगली ऑन द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ हेवी इंडस्ट्रीज सच एज स्टील एंड ऑल दैट, and construction of the dams and all that. सो दीज सेक्टर वुड बी अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ द स्टेट. अब ये जो सेक्टर होंगे, जैसे कि स्टेट का, जैसे कि डैम्स का कंस्ट्रक्शन है या फिर इंडस्ट्रीज का जो डेवलपमेंट है, these all the sectors would be in the control of the state. That means under the control of the government. These focus on heavy industry, and the effort at state regulation of economy was to guide economic policy for the next few decades. This approach had many strong supporters but also some vocal critic. तो अब ये जो चीज़ें थी कि प्राइवेट सेक्टर और गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर को दोनों को डेवलपमेंट के काम में लाया जाए, मगर इसके भी कुछ लोग क्रिटिक थे जो ये कहते थे कि इट इज़ नॉट अ गुड आइडिया. सम फेल्ड दैट इट हैड पुट इनएडिक्वेट एम्फेसिस ऑन एग्रीकल्चर. कुछ लोग ये कहते थे कि ये जो प्लानिंग किया गया है इसमें एग्रीकल्चर की तरफ कम ध्यान दिया गया है. कुछ लोग ये कहते थे कि some of the other people argued that it has neglected primary education. कुछ लोग ये कहते थे कि प्राइमरी एजुकेशन की तरफ कम ध्यान दिया गया है. Still others believe that it had not taken account of the environmental implications of economic policies. और उनमें भी कुछ ऐसे लोग थे जो ये कहते थे कि जो environmental implications है, एनवायरमेंटल इम्प्लीकेशंस ऑफ इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसीज, मतलब इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसीज को बनाते हुए जो कुछ भी इन्वायरमेंटल रिलेटेड इश्यूज है इसके तरफ फोकस नहीं किया गया. एज महात्मा गांधीज फॉलोवर मीराबेन wrote in 1949, by science and machinery. By science and machinery, he means who? Mankind, मतलब कि लोग. In 1949, Miraben writes that the science and machinery may get huge returns for a time, but ultimately will come dissolution. We have not sorry we have got to study nature's balance and develop our lives within her laws. If we are if we are to survive as a physically healthy and morally decent species. So यहाँ बोला गया है कि मीरा बहन के जरिए लिखा गया है कि अगर हमें इस कुदरत के साथ चलना है या इस इन्वायरमेंट के साथ में बने रहना है और इनके साथ में इस नेचर के साथ में अगर बैलेंस बनाए रखना है, देन जो भी डेवलपमेंट हम कर रहे हैं दैट शुड बी अंडर द लॉज ऑफ द नेचर. मतलब कुदरत के कानून के हिसाब से हमने सारे डेवलपमेंटल प्रोग्राम्स करने चाहिए, ऐसे मीरा बहन का कहना था. And in this way we can say, now we are going to see another point, that is the nation 60 years on. The last, I think it is the last topic of the chapter, so we will finish it now. The nation 60 years on. So on 15th August 2007, India celebrated its 60th Independence Day. Today, India is the India is the largest democracy and has crossed many milestones that all Indians can be proud of. 13 general elections have been held since independence. तो जैसे कि यहाँ पर कहा गया है कि 15th August 2007 को हमने आज़ादी के पूरे 60 साल कंप्लीट कर लिए हैं. एंड एज यू ऑल नो दैट वी आर इन द 2021. It was 77th Independence Day that we have celebrated on 15th August 2021. So India has celebrated around more than 75 years of its we can say the Independence Day. And today, India is the largest democracy and has crossed many milestones that all Indians can be proud of. आज के समय में इंडिया ने ऐसे कई सारे काम किए हैं जो कि अपने आप में बहुत गर्व की बात है. एंड अराउंड 13 जनरल इलेक्शन, आज तक करीब करीब 30 जनरल इलेक्शन जो है वो हमने पूरे किए हैं. Hundreds of state and local elections have also been held the past 60 years. मतलब हमारे इंडिया में कई सारे सैकड़ों स्टेट इलेक्शंस भी लड़े गए इन दिस लास्ट 60 years. फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच इज एंजॉयड बाय एवरी इंडियन. आज के समय में हर इंसान को बोलने का अधिकार है. वो अपने अधिकार को, अपने इस राइट को, मूलभूत अधिकार को, इस फंडामेंटल राइट को अच्छे से एंजॉय कर पा रहा है. दैट मीन्स ही इज एबल टू स्पीक इन फ्रंट ऑफ द पीपल नाउ. इंडिया कैन बी प्राउड ऑफ एन इंडिपेंडेंट जुडिशरी दैट फंक्शंस विदाउट एनी प्रेजुडिस. तो आज के समय में इंडिया can be proud of one very important thing, that is independent judiciary. That means in our country the court system or the judicial system is completely independent from the government, and that is a part of we can say prejudice, we can say uh, that is we can sorry I wanted to say that India can be proud of an independent judiciary that functions without any prejudice. मतलब कि सरकार के किसी भी हस्तक्षेप के बिना या इंटरफेरेंस के बिना आज जो है हमारी जो इंडिया की जो जुडिशियरी है या कोर्ट का सिस्टम जो है वो काम कर सकता है, फंक्शन कर सकता है. So, deep divisions still persist in spite of the tremendous progress India has made on all fronts. The Dalit are still discriminated against, sometimes face violence. They are not allowed access to water sources, temples, parks, and other public places, in spite on the secular ideals of the constitution. We sometimes witness clashes between different religious groups in many states. The divide between the rich and poor is as wide today as it was 60 years ago. Though many have benefited from the economic growth, those below the poverty line have remained. Their education is still a distant dream to a few. मतलब यहाँ पर क्या बोला गया है कि आज आज़ादी के पूरे 60 साल से ज़्यादा का समय हो चुका है. द दलित आर, बट इवन देन द दलित आर स्टिल डिस्क्रिमिनेटेड। आज के समय में फिर भी दलितों को डिस्क्रिमिनेट किया जाता है अगेंस्ट, समटाइम्स दे इवन फेस द वायलेंस ऑल्सो। They are not allowed to access to the water sources, as well as they are not allowed to enter into the temples. They are not allowed to go into the parks and other public places. These kind of things are still going on in our country in spite of the secular ideals of the constitution. आज हमारे कंट्री में सेक्युलर आइडियल्स है, मतलब कि धर्मनिरपेक्षता है, किसी एक धर्म की मतलब आइडियोलॉजी पर हमारा देश नहीं चलता। सो बट इवन देन, in spite of the secular ideals of constitution, even then we sometimes witness clashes between different religious groups like Hindus and Muslim and all that in many states. The divide between the rich and poor is as wide today as it was 60 years ago. आज के समय में भी अमीर और गरीब के बीच का जो गैप है वो वैसा ही है। The divide between rich and poor is as wide today as it was 60 years ago. मतलब आज से 60 साल पहले जैसा था या 75 साल पहले जैसा था, आज भी वो वैसा ही है। Though many have benefited from economic growth, those below the poverty line have remained. Their education is still a distant dream to a few. आज के समय में कई सारे लोगों का फायदा हुआ है, इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट हुआ है, ग्रोथ हुआ है, प्रॉस्पेरिटी मिली है। Those below the poverty line have remained, their education is still a distant dream to few. आज के समय में इतना होने के बावजूद भी ऐसे कई सारे लोग हैं जो कि बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन है, जिनको आज भी एजुकेशन उनके लिए एक दूर के ख्वाब की तरह है। इट इज़ लाइक अ डिस्टेंट ड्रीम फॉर few people of our country, those who are poor. So in this way, here we have done with the chapter. Uh, Now we can say that here we have done with our history syllabus, and only one chapter is remaining from civics that we will complete from online as well as offline class. Okay, children, now you can start your studies for the mock test also. Thank you very much.